Hello, everyone. I'm Cathi Diaz, and I am here today with a group of individuals to talk about the gut-brain connection and learn a little bit about how that is related. And we're also going to talk about Anovite's new kid on the block. They have a colostrum-based product called Gut Biome 6. And so we're going to look at that product and see how that might be the missing puzzle piece for a lot of us in our health. I do have a slide presentation so that we've got the visuals to look at. So let me share my screen and then we'll go through our slides. All right, so Anovite asks us, are you ready for the change? And they introduced last year their new product, Gut Biome 6, which we affectionately call GB6. And again, this is a product that is designed with the focus on gut health so that it would affect overall health in general, including mental and emotional health. And we're going to see a little bit about how that fits together as we go along here. First, I'd like to say that I am an educator and not a healthcare professional. I am an independent associate with Anovite, and I love sharing information about their wonderful products, which I use myself and also use for my family and loved ones. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, or prevent disease. This information is for educational purposes only. I am a mother and a grandmother who works hard to keep my family healthy. I do have a background in education, and I love teaching and sharing. I spend a lot of time teaching study groups, and currently I'm going through a study group right now called Feminopathy, and we're looking at homeopathy for women's health. And next month, we'll be starting a new guided study group called Mindful Homeopathy using Joette Calabrese's curriculum. And this will be on Wednesdays in October at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And you see the dates here. Please reach out to me if you're interested. There is much we can do to support our mental and emotional health. In this course, we will be looking at nutrition and the benefits of nutrient-dense foods. And we'll also be looking at how homeopathy can help us when we get stuck or if we have a deficit in our health. So it's a really wonderful course. I'm prepping for it right now. It's got invaluable information, and I do highly recommend it. So again, reach out if you're interested. Let me tell you a little bit about my background and how I got interested in leading study groups. About 20 years ago or so, I was buying a triple pack of acid reflux medication every time I did my grocery shopping. And that was for my husband who had chronic heartburn. I had watched my dad throughout my life struggle with chronic heartburn and indigestion. And what I saw was that the medications that were supposed to help him brought temporary relief, but it never really got to the root of the problem. And unfortunately, many of the medications that will suppress the symptoms that we're dealing with often will make the situation either more chronic and more deep in our health, or we'll find that we have a new set of symptoms that go along with the medications that we're taking. So I was really looking for answers. My children always struggled with environmental allergies. My husband's digestive issues just seemed to be getting worse and worse. Every time he went to the doctor, they were just prescribing some other medication that they were recommending. And I just felt like we were on a downward spiral. As we do, we look for answers with people that we know. And so I reached out to a lot of the so-called crunchy moms that I knew at church and in my homeschool co-op, and talking to the moms who seemed to have a little bit more knowledge about natural health than I did. And one of the books that was recommended to me was the book Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon. That book literally changed our lives for the better. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along here. But Sally Fallon is the founder and CEO of the Weston A. Price Foundation. They have a website. I'll, again, be talking about them as we go along here. But when I read the book Nourishing Traditions, and believe me, I read it like a textbook. I was homeschooling my children at the time, and since I didn't have a lot of personal time for reading, we read it as a read aloud in the mornings. And so we would do our Bible reading and our history reading, and then we would read a few pages from Nourishing Traditions so that I could relearn health and understand a more natural traditional health paradigm. And my children learned right alongside as I was learning. Once I understood the WAP or Weston Price Foundation principles, I put my heart and soul into not only changing our diet, but our way of life. We started sourcing our foods from co-ops, local organic gardens. I began purchasing unpasteurized raw milk from a local farmer and joined a co-op to be able to have access to that milk on a regular basis. I began grinding my own grains and making my own bread and baked goods from scratch, which I still do to this day. But I learned that traditional foods were nutrient dense and maximize nutrients, whereas modern day industrialized foods minimize nutrients. Again, we'll talk about this further as we're going along here. But getting back to my story, as I learned these principles, we were able to achieve a greater quality of health through nutrient-dense, traditionally prepared foods. One thing led to another, of course, and as I'm learning about traditional food preparation and sourcing, I also began studying herbalism, essential oils, and eventually homeopathy. And as I mentioned before, I currently lead multiple homeopathy study groups throughout the year because I'm trying to learn myself, and also I'm trying to pass it along to others and help other people not make the same mistakes that I made. I learned about Anovite and colostrum through people that I respect very much in the homeopathy community. And when I discovered Anovite's colostrum-6, I knew this was something that just about everyone could do. Not everyone can grow a garden or perhaps join a raw milk co-op or raise chickens for eggs or meat and those kinds of things. I think we all can do something, and if we really pray about it and push ourselves, we probably can push ourselves out of the comfort zone and do more than we're doing currently. But none of us can do it all. And one of the things that I thought about Anovite was this is something anybody can do, and it can really make a huge impact on health. And so I did join the company as an associate. And again, I do love sharing information with others as we are here doing here today. Okay, so as I said, today's focus is on gut health. Colostrum is truly the foundation for all the systems of our body. It was designed by our creator to be the first food and the first set of nutrients that a newborn receives from its mother. And as Anovite produces their colostrum, they keep it just the same as it's created by our creator, just removing a little bit of the moisture so it can be packaged and readily available for us. So colostrum is a food produced by all mammalian mothers. Anovite's colostrum-6 is bovine colostrum, meaning that it comes from cows, and it's 99% bioidentical to human colostrum. It is extremely potent and the most effective colostrum on the market because it is the only colostrum certified by a third party to be pure and is obtained within the first 6 hours of colostrum production. And that's really important because after the first 6 hours, it does become transitional milk. And so you'll see a lot of the colostrums on the market will claim to have been gathered within the first 24, 48, 72 hours. And those are all warning signs that it's not true colostrum. You want it to be certified to be gathered within the first 6 hours. It's also really important that it's not fractionated. Again, look at those products that are being marketed out there. I'm seeing a lot of them in my social media feeds. If you go to the website and read between the lines, you'll see that some of the claims that they're making have to do with them improving on the original colostrum. So they will tell you that they remove the unnecessary fat, or they add a certain ingredient to make it more consistent, or whatever they do to change it. And unfortunately, you can't improve on God's creation. In that way, you can't out-design the great designer. You can't out-create the great creator. So Anovite's Colostrum6 has not removed any of the important components of colostrum, and it hasn't added anything in addition to the true 6-hour colostrum. You see a quote here from Hippocrates: all disease begins in the gut. And a real fun fact that I learned is that as humans, we can survive without getting our mother's colostrum because we get a lot of our immune system from the placenta when we're still inside of our mothers. Baby cows, however, do not get their immune system from the mother's placenta. They get the entire immune system from those first few hours of colostrum. So all the important immune factors and growth factors and all the components that are necessary to kickstart every system in the body are contained in the 6-hour bovine colostrum. So it's neat to realize that God gave the mother cow more colostrum than is needed for the baby calf. Scientists have discovered that baby calves survive and thrive on about 2 quarts of colostrum, and it's really important, farmers know this, that the baby cow gets the 2 quarts of colostrum. After that, the additional colostrum will dry up if nature's left to take its course. But if the colostrum is gathered after the baby calf has gotten the first 2 quarts, there's still about 8 to 10 more quarts of colostrum that will be obtainable within those first 6 hours. And so that extra bonus colostrum can be used by us as humans at any time throughout our lives. Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut, and colostrum was designed to heal and seal and prepare the gut of the baby calf. So it is something that can benefit us as human beings as well. I was really happy to find out that the Weston A. Price organization and Sally Fallon endorsed colostrum. The book, again, that I mentioned, Nourishing Traditions, is basically a textbook and a cookbook that explains traditionally prepared foods and how we can continue to eat like our ancestors did by just having the knowledge of how to source and prepare our foods the way that has been done throughout the generations throughout history. As I mentioned, industrial produced highly refined foods comprise much of our modern diet, and these industrial foods emphasize quantity over quality. Unfortunately, a lot of these foods are completely devoid of the nutrients that we need for good health. And these industrialized, modernized foods are the main cause of chronic disease. What we learn in Nourishing Traditions and through the Weston Price organization is that we must return to the nutrient-dense, traditionally prepared foods that nourished our ancestors. What are some of these foods? Well, traditional diets maximize nutrients through foods such as bone broth, grass-fed meats, grass-fed animals that produce healthy milk, eggs, and animal fats from animals raised on pasture, along with fermented grains, fermented vegetables, and beverages, etc. Modern diets minimize nutrients. They process foods such as vegetable oils, seed oils. Meats and animal products are obtained from animals that are raised in confinement and never see the sun or have the opportunity to graze on pasture. They also will high heat a lot of the industrialized foods to elongate their shelf life. And because they've been so high heated and tampered with, the nutrients that are in those foods dissipate, and there's just nothing left. So they make up for that by adding synthetic vitamins back into the food so that they can at least put something on the label showing that there are nutrients in the foods. This has definitely taken a toll on our guts and on our health overall. Again, I want to commend to you the Weston A. Price organization. You can read some of their materials at their website, which is westonaprice.org. Their diet is a diet that is very balanced and promotes traditional nutrient-dense foods. So as I learned the principles of nutrient-dense foods, one of the things I began to understand is that it's really important for us to nourish our microbiome. When my children were younger, I really just didn't understand this. And I was under the impression, as many of us either are or have been, that all microbes are germs and germs are bad. And so we've got to kill all the germs. Basically, that's germ theory. And we see it in practices like pasteurized milk and, again, high heated industrialized foods. The foods are heated at a high temperature to kill off all the bacteria, and then they have a long shelf life. What unfortunately has happened is that we have killed off the beneficial bacteria along with the bad or the pathogenic bacteria. And we need to get back to practices that traditional cultures understood, such as naturally fermenting our food. So in that book, Nourishing Traditions, I learned how to make my own yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, sourdough bread, kombucha, which is a fermented tea. And eventually, I learned that colostrum also helps to build our microbiome. In other words, it replenishes the beneficial bacteria in our gut. I mentioned that I joined a raw milk co-op, and that's because I learned the realization that the reason my husband couldn't tolerate milk was because it was pasteurized. And when the milk is heated at high temperatures, many of the digestive enzymes are killed off in the milk. And unfortunately, for some people, those enzymes are not produced enough in their own bodies. So they're no longer able to break down the milk sugar or the lactose. And so my husband, like many people today, was lactose intolerant. Once we switched to raw milk, we found that he could tolerate the raw milk just fine, especially when it was fermented. And so you see here in the picture, a picture of my dairy kefir that I keep on the counter all the time, and I have for over 20 years now. And so it's basically just a raw milk that is cultured with kefir grains or a kefir culture, and it sits at room temperature for 24 to 48 hours until it thickens and the beneficial bacteria grow in the milk. And then I strain out the kefir and put it in a new jar with the milk to start the next batch of kefir. And the fermented kefir goes into the refrigerator for us to use in smoothies and just to drink throughout the week. So this is a traditionally prepared food. And again, traditional diets maximize nutrients by consuming raw and fermented dairy products. Yogurt is another fermented dairy product that I learned to make myself, and is something that we eat on a regular basis, and it helps provide those beneficial bacteria into our microbiome. Anovite's colostrum is low temperature dehydrated, so it is considered raw, and it still contains all of those components, not only the vitamins and minerals and enzymes, but also the probiotics that are in the raw bovine colostrum. I was thrilled to find out that the Weston A. Price Foundation does endorse raw bovine colostrum as a traditional healing food that has been historically used in cultures around the world. Remember, colostrum is not milk, but it's the first fluid produced by mammalian mothers prior to the production of actual milk. And colostrum supports gut health, dental health, and the entire immune system. So looking at the gut-brain connection then, one of the next books that I read after I read Nourishing Traditions was a book that was recommended by the Weston Price organization, and it was the Gut and Psychology Syndrome book by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. The full title of the book, I'm going to read you the subtitle, is Natural Treatment for Autism, Dyslexia, Depression, Dyspraxia, ADD, ADHD, and Schizophrenia. Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride's thesis in the book is that poor gut health seriously impacts physical health and brain function. She was looking for answers to treat her own autistic child, and what she found was that there is a common denominator between children with autism in that they have poor gut health. And as she approached the topic of gut health and began searching and discovering ways to improve gut health, she found that the symptoms of autism were actually reversed. So this connection between the gut and the brain is laid out systematically and in detail in the book, GAPS, or Gut and Psychology Syndrome. And I do commend you to the book to do your own research. But just a little summary here, some of the things that we can address in our health by healing our gut are conditions such as attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity, timidity, depression, aggression, delayed milestones, fuzzy-headedness, memory loss, and dementia. I borrowed this infographic from Dr. Axe, and I really like him a lot as well. He's a real leader in the natural health and nutrient-dense food movement, and I do recommend that you look into his work as well. But as you can see here in the infographic, the leaky gut affects the whole body. Every single system in the body is affected when the gut is out of balance. You see Dr. Axe has linked leaky gut to thyroid issues, skin issues, brain and cognitive issues, skin and mouth conditions, joint issues, adrenal issues, and colon issues. I learned in a course that I took and then later led as a study group leader called Good Gut, Bad Gut, a homeopathic course by Joette Calabrese, that Ellie Michnikov was the first to suggest the possibility of recolonizing the gut with beneficial flora. And this was back in the early 20th century. Scientists have been discovering that microbial communities contribute to health. There are 10 times as many microbes in our bodies as human cells. Microbial communities inhabit our mouth, skin, respiratory system, and even our female reproductive tract. The lymph system connects the bowels to the other parts of the body. The gut flora in our digestive system can be damaged by vaccines, antibiotics, and many other assaults, and we'll kind of mention that here in just a moment, a few more of those causes. But here's an infographic, again, that I picked up online that shows kind of a visual of what leaky gut looks like. And basically, this is a picture of the intestinal wall being compromised or even destroyed by things that assault it. So this breaking down of the integrity of the intestinal wall makes openings, and through these openings, substances are allowed to enter the bloodstream that should not be able to get through. And so the result is, you see here at the bottom, blood-brain barrier breach. And so we can see how that would affect our cognitive and mental and emotional health. Inflammation, which could affect the entire body. Autoimmunity, when the body literally starts attacking itself. And malabsorption and nutrient deficiency, meaning that we don't have the ability to uptake the nutrients that our bodies need. So here's a list of some of the other causes of gut dysbiosis. So we mentioned vaccines, pharmaceutical drugs, antibiotics, foods of commerce, as we mentioned, highly processed foods with dyes, preservatives, and other toxins, pollution, such as pesticides and other toxins that are in our cleaners and in our air and in our water and all around us every day, and even things like birth control pills. When the gut is off, so are many other areas of our health. So one of the things that I found myself doing after learning how important a nutrient-dense diet is for our health was obsessing over food. And I learned this term in the Good Gut, Bad Gut course. The term is orthorexia. I had heard of other eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia and things like that, where it has to do with the quantity of food that you eat. But I had never heard of orthorexia, which has to do with the quality of the food that you eat. Orthorexia is an eating disorder that involves an unhealthy obsession with healthy eating. Unlike other eating disorders, orthorexia mostly revolves around food quality, not quantity. So one of the things I had to learn along the way was that food is important, but we can't let it make us crazy. And we can't drive our family crazy, which I found myself doing a little bit. The kids would use opportunities to overdo on junk food when they weren't at home because mom was being such a stickler at home. And so I did have to learn to find the balance. And my mom says moderation in all things. I think that's a biblical principle. And she'll often remind us of that principle. And so that's one that at various points in my life, when I'm learning something new and I'm getting excited about something, I have to kind of bring myself back and realize that we've got to find the balance. And my dad used to use the acronym KISS, and it was keep it simple, stupid. Of course, it's better to say keep it simple, sweetie. But, back then we weren't quite as careful as we are now with not being offensive. So however you want to say it, keep it simple, sweetie, or keep it simple, stupid. Find ways to find the balance. And that's one of the reasons why I like Anovite's products, because where I was obsessing a bit too much over the quality of our food, I've learned that we can not be quite so perfect in our diet as long as we're just covering the bases with some of these whole food nutritional supplements like the Anovite product line. One other point that we need to look at, though, before we look at the specifics of Anovite's products, are that drugs, although they can be helpful and although there are times when we do need them, all drugs have side effects. And so you must do your due diligence. Turning to drugs for every ill is not the answer. Be careful. Whatever drug you're taking, look up the side effects. One of the things that I learned about some of the prescription antacids that are on the market and that I know that my dad took was that it turns off the body's ability to produce hydrochloric acid and break down your food. Unfortunately, there is a long-term effect if you continually turn off the body's ability to produce the hydrochloric acid, because even though you're not experiencing the acid reflux that was so life disruptive, you're now not digesting your food properly. And so that can cause problems in the colon and the intestines and cause its own set of issues. So I learned from Joette Calabrese in the Good Gut, Bad Gut course to get out your magnifying glass and read the inserts for all the drugs you're taking. Of course, we can also go online and do our due diligence that way. But she said that often the side effects that are described in the insert is a description of your symptoms that you're experiencing now, or perhaps symptoms of your next illness. So do consider the side effects and the risks and benefits of any drugs that you're taking. And as we'll see at the end here, I have a quote from Hippocrates: when possible, we want to let our food be our medicine. Okay, so this brings us to Dr. Anthony Kleinsmith, who is the founder and formulator of the Anovite product line. I've had the opportunity to meet and learn from Dr. K at the Anovite Lifestyle Club trip the past 3 years. You see my husband and I here having dinner with him. This was year before last. And Dr. K is the world's leading expert on colostrum. He does have my utmost respect for bringing the health benefits of true 6-hour bovine colostrum to the world. You see here 2 of the books that he has written. The first one is The First Milk Diet, Your Anti-Aging Secret, and the Your Vitality Factor book, The Secret to Living a Long and Vibrant Life. And I do recommend both of those books to you. Dr. Klein-Smith gave us the analogy at the Anovite conference of the Anovite product line as being compared to a hub and spokes on a wheel. And so if you look at this infographic, you see the center of this wheel is certified 6-hour colostrum. He said that this is the foundation for general health. But as you see here, there are spokes coming out from the center hub, and each spoke represents a specialized focus on a problem area. So if somebody needs help with energy, they may look at the Seismic 6 product. If they need help with detox, especially heavy metal detox, the Limousin 6 product was designed with that in mind. And for our purposes today, GB6 is laser focused on restoring gut health. So what is GB6? GB6 is a powder supplement formula designed for advanced digestion and gut-brain support. So what is the gut-brain connection? As I mentioned, many of us are discovering the beauty of the microbiome. And we've learned that not all bacteria are bad. There are actually beneficial bacteria, and we need to make a concentrated effort to be replenishing those in our gut because of all the things that we mentioned before, the highly processed foods, antibiotics, drugs, toxins, etc., that are working against those beneficial bacteria in our gut. So our gut health is strengthened by beneficial bacteria. In addition, science has discovered a second brain hidden in the walls of our digestive system. This second brain links digestion, mood, immune health, and even behavior. And we saw that with Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride's book, The Gut and Psychology Syndrome. Science calls the little brain the enteric nervous system, or ENS. The second brain is 2 layers of more than 100 million nerve cells lining our gut, and it sends signals to our big brain, or central nervous system, the CNS. For people experiencing gut issues, this can trigger emotional and physical health shifts. Together, our 2 brains play a key role in overall health and well-being. Dr. Klein-Smith used a proprietary formula of layering nutrient-dense superfoods in order to rebuild those beneficial bacteria and nourish our microbiome in our gut. And so real quick, I'll go through the components of GB6 and why it is such a great product to help restore and replenish the microbiome in our gut. So GB6 contains marine algae superfoods, Limonara japonica, fucoidan, and fucoxanthin come from the pristine blue zone waters of Okinawa, Japan. And these superfoods increase the abundance of beneficial bacteria, lactobacillus, and maintain healthy mucosal layers in our GI tract. And so this is one of the concentrated components of GB6. In addition, Dr. K adds the lab-certified 6-hour true bovine colostrum-6 to the GB6 formulation. So colostrum-6 provides a wide variety of nutrients, immunoglobulins, which are basically those antibodies that fight the pathogenic microbes that try to assault our immune system. And immunoglobulins are our body's defense against those. And colostrum contains those and in a wide variety. It also contains passive antibodies and peptides that support healthy tissue in the gut lining. Another superfood that is included in GB6 is beta-glucan. Beta-glucan is a plant-based fiber that feeds the good bacteria in our gut and helps balance the gut microbiome. Beta-glucan in GB6 acts as a prebiotic, providing nourishment for the beneficial bacteria in our gut. This includes the superstar bifidobacteria and lactobacillus species, which play a crucial role in maintaining a healthy gut microbiome. When fermented by these beneficial bacteria, beta-glucan produces short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. These SCFAs serve as a vital energy source for the cell linings of our colon, promoting a healthy gut environment and supporting optimal function. A strong gut barrier is essential for overall gut health. Beta-glucan promotes the production of mucins, special proteins that enhance the integrity of our gut barrier. This helps maintain a healthy gut lining, preventing harmful substances from entering the bloodstream while allowing essential nutrients to be absorbed. So you see how colostrum was basically foundational for all the systems in our body. But what Dr. Kleinsmith has done with GB6 is he's taken these specific superfoods and combined them with colostrum to target this extremely important part of our body, the microbiome of our gut. Okay, and we're not done. He also added gut restorative peptides. PRPs, or proline-rich polypeptides, support peptide building blocks in the GI tract. This calms gut discomfort and reduces bloating. And you see here in our little infographic, it's a game changer. What we find is that it helps promote positive mood, healthy stress response. It helps us to have a healthy gut barrier and lining, overall brain health. It has those essential probiotics, and it is laser focused on helping to promote gut health. Another way that we can look at this is with the analogy of a garden. Those of us who've dabbled in gardening, we know that the healthier our soil, the healthier our plants. And this is true in our bodies as well. The prebiotics, I would say it, prebiotics in GB6 help prepare the soil or the environment of our gut so that the probiotics can flourish. So the prebiotics in the GB6 formula help feed and promote the growth of the probiotics. And then there are postbiotics that are also included that help that fermentation process. And again, it's all having to do with metabolism and helping the microbiome to flourish in our bodies. So some of the benefits of GB6, to summarize, it supports gut immune function, gut flora balance, healthy gut barrier and lining. It balances our gut microbiome, calms gut discomfort and helps with bloating, supports positive mood and overall brain health. How do you take GB6? It comes in convenient little sachets now, and it's recommended that you take 2 sachets per day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. I'll give you some other suggestions here in just a moment. But I did want to point out that one of the things that Dr. Kleinsmith has said that is really important and makes this a top shelf probiotic is that GB6 was formulated to be heat resistant. And that is important because it was designed to maintain its potency even at room temperature, and it is designed to brave the gastric barrier. So GB6's spores are true warriors. They survive the acid journey through our stomachs, unlike many other lactobacillus species. It is not required to be refrigerated because it is heat resistant. You can store it at room temperature, and I keep mine just on the counter in my kitchen. It is not recommended to be heated or high heated, but room temperature is fine. So now I'm going to go through a few frequently asked questions. Okay, the first one is, why should I take GB6? If you suffer from occasional gas, bloating, or indigestion, these are all signs your gut could be imbalanced. Our everyday diets can wreak havoc on the gut and cause a ripple effect on health issues. Correcting a poor diet and eliminating food sensitivities is often not enough to solve the problem. Additional supplementation with GB6 brings components that allow the body to experience relief and comfort to digestion issues by balancing your gut flora. What does GB6 do? GB6 feeds your gut what it needs to maintain a strong barrier and healthy mucosal lining. When you detox and strengthen your gut, this balances the brain by aligning the communication link with the brain and intestinal functions. Who should take GB6? GB6 is intended for adults 18 and older, but it is safe for children if taken under a doctor's supervision. Does GB6 work with certain dietary restrictions? GB6 contains milk-derived proteins from the bovine colostrum. While not considered dairy-free, these proteins are in trace amounts. GB6 is gluten-free, soy-free, GMO-free, shellfish-free, and sesame-free. Can I take GB6 with other supplements or medications? Yes, there are no known contraindications with GB6, but it's always a good idea to check with your doctor to be safe. Is GB6 safe to take while pregnant or nursing? All the ingredients are natural and do not pose any safety concerns for pregnant or nursing women. However, again, it's always a good idea to check with your doctor before adding it to your routine. Do I need to refrigerate GB6? No, GB6 has a shelf life of 3 years. Okay, so I said I'd give you a couple more ideas of ways to take GB6, and these are some ways that I've kind of played around with to, just see if there are other ways to enjoy it. I personally like the flavor. The original formula was a very bright flavor. It did have a few ingredients that some of us weren't completely comfortable with. In the original formulation, it was a whole food product, but there were some artificial flavorings added in a small amount to make it more palatable. A lot of us questioned that part of the formulation with Dr. Kleinsmith. He defended it and said that the extremely small amount was not anything that would be harmful, but it was important to make it palatable so that the general public would, want to take it. Personally, at that point, I took it to a practitioner that does energy testing, and I had it tested on me to see how my body reacted when those ingredients were included. And my practitioner said, yes. She said, this is absolutely good for you. It tests well. And so even with the artificial flavorings, I continued to take it and didn't give it a second thought. One of the ways that I like to take it was to scoop it into, and they're little small scoop that's about about a half a teaspoon in quantity. And I would just put it in some fizzy water, and it tastes like a light peach soda. And I enjoyed that a couple times throughout the day. Or sometimes I would just add an organic fruit juice of choice. I like the organic mango nectar. So put a little ice in the glass, add the fizzy water, add a little bit of your organic juice, and top it off with your GB6 and stir. And that was really enjoyable. So here's my recipe, and you can give that a try if you'd like. However, at the conference this summer, Dr. Kleinsmith made an announcement and said, you asked and we listened. And because there were so many of us who are probably hyper focused on ingredients, because many of us have had bad experiences with food, he listened to us and he reformulated the GB6 and took out the artificial flavorings. And now the new formulation has nothing artificial whatsoever. So I do really commend Dr. K for hearing us out and taking action to make us even more satisfied. So again, the new GB6 has no artificial ingredients, no artificial flavorings whatsoever. I just got my first bag and tried it just recently, and I like this flavor even better. It's not quite as tart. It's a little creamier, and it's definitely very peachy. It comes now in small sachets, and that's even more convenient as well. So you don't have to mess with the little scoop. You can just use the individual servings from the sachets that come in the bag. One of my favorite things to do with GB6, and I did it with the old formulation and I'm doing it with the new formulation as well, is to make a supercharged yogurt, which is adapted from the Weston A. Price Organization's magic yogurt recipe. And I wanted to tell you just a little bit about that. You can go to the Weston A. Price Organization website, wapf.org, and put in the keywords magic yogurt, and you'll get this recipe that they recommend. What they discuss in the article is just how when you ferment yogurt with colostrum and a good top shelf probiotic, what they find is that there are other nutrients that are a result that it I can't find the words, but it becomes an even more nutrient dense food. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide just to show you how I do it. So here you see my bag of colostrum, my bag of GB6, and my large batch recipe. So initially I made it in small batches just to see if it worked and if I liked it, and I did. And then recently I've been making it in large batches. So I'm going to go through the recipes here in just a second. But I want to commend to you the article to look at. Again, the article is on the Weston A. Price Organization's website. The title of the article is called Shifting the Medical Paradigm with GC Math and Raw Milk. And basically, what the article explains is that you can make your own GC Math yogurt by using raw milk, a good quality colostrum, and a good quality probiotic. They call this supercharged yogurt. And again, it produces this micronutrient called GC Math. Again, I want to reiterate that Anovite makes no claims to diagnose, treat, or cure. And I am not stating that I can guarantee that you're getting GC Math when you use these recipes. But I do want you to do your own due diligence and do your research. But I will tell you from the article what GC Math is. So GC Math stands for GC protein-derived macrophage activating factor. Normal GC protein, also called vitamin D binding protein, is an abundant glycoprotein found in human blood serum as well as in other body fluids and organs. Among its key functions, VDBP, vitamin D binding protein, binds and transports vitamin D and its metabolites. The body uses vitamin D in almost 3,000 genes, many of which play a crucial role in immune system function. When GC protein converts to its active form, GC Math, it becomes a signaling protein that instructs the body's garbage collectors, cells called macrophages, to turn on. The macrophages then hunt for and consume foreign particles in our body. These could include viruses, bacteria, and damaged tissues. The macrophages are critical to a healthy immune system. There are some claims made in this article, which I cannot read to you because I do not want to imply that I'm making any claims whatsoever. But again, I feel compelled to point you toward this information so that you can do your own research. That said, let me share my small batch and large batch recipes. So my small batch recipe is just to take 3 to 4 tablespoons of colostrum-6 powder, a cup of raw milk. You can use water, but I've used raw unpasteurized cow's milk, and 1 scoop or 1 sachet of GB6 powder. You can put it in a small saucepan, warm it just to below the boiling point and then let it cool down. You don't want to boil it. Add the colostrum-6 and GB6 and mix well into the warm milk. Leave the yogurt to stand in a small covered mason jar for approximately 48 hours at room temperature. It will thicken, it'll form a bit of whey on top, and you can either stir that back in so it'll be more liquidy, or you can pour off the whey so it'll be a thicker yogurt. And then once you've got the consistency of your liking, you can refrigerate it at least for 2 hours before consuming. This yogurt is slightly sweet and very thick when you pour off the whey, like Greek yogurt. It's wonderful on top of fresh fruit such as strawberries, blueberries, or mango. And when we make it in large batches, we also like to eat it for breakfast in the morning with homemade granola. So here's my large batch recipe. I totally experimented with this and it turned out wonderful. And so now I'm real excited to share it. So I buy my raw milk in 1 gallon containers. I took my 1 gallon container of raw milk. I let it sit on the counter for several hours so it would go to room temperature. And then I poured it into my large 6-quart crock pot. I also added a pint of organic yogurt, but now that I've made my first batch, I can continue to use previous batches as my yogurt starter. So you can either use the store-bought pint of organic yogurt or use a pint of your yogurt from a previous batch. Then to that crock pot, I also whisked in 4 tablespoons of colostrum-6 powder and 4 teaspoons or 4 sachets of GB6 powder. Whisk all the ingredients and then turn the setting to high until the milk warms and is warm on your wrist. Kind of like, I don't know, in the olden days, we used to warm baby bottles, you know, with dropping the milk on your wrist. And so that's just a way to be able to tell that the milk is warm without it getting too warm. So keep an eye on it and then turn off the crock pot and unplug it. Wrap it in a really large, thick towel, like a beach towel, to insulate. Then leave the wrapped crock pot on the counter for 12 to 24 hours until your yogurt is set. You'll know it's set when it's separated and the whey is floating on top and everything below that is the thick yogurt. I like to strain off most of the whey, and I'll tell you the whey is delicious too. So you can just drink the whey as a beverage or use it in other recipes. But again, I like to strain off most of the whey and then spoon the thickened yogurt into mason jars as you see here. I like the 2-cup pint-sized jars. Store your jars in the refrigerator and enjoy. And again, this recipe was adapted from the article Shifting the Medical Paradigm with GC Math and Raw Milk. And the article can be found on the westinaprice.org website. The date is November 21st, 2017, and the author is Lee Emerson. Okay, I also want to share with you something that my mom discovered, and that is an elixir that you can make with your GB6 by fermenting it just a bit on the counter and then using it in place of an antacid when you have the acidic feeling in your esophagus. And so this helps balance out the excess acid. So Mom, are you able to share exactly how you do your process when you make your GB6 elixir?
Yeah. Am I on?
Yep, you're on.
Okay. I do it in individual jelly jars, which are about 1 cup of liquid, because it's just for me. And I put 2 jars at a time on the shelf. I fill them with distilled water or filtered water. And I put in 2 scoops of GB6 and shake them up, and that's all that I use. And then I put the ring. I put a coffee filter over the top so that it's to the air, and then just put the ring on the top and leave them on the counter for about 24 hours. I did let them go to 48 hours, and it was a little too acidy for me. So it depends on you. and then after that, I just put them in the refrigerator. And I take a sip before each meal. And also, if I get an acidy burning feeling, I will take that instead of a anti acid pill to control my acid reflux. And that's it, simple as can be.
Yeah, I think it is really neat how simple, and it also is cost effective because you're able to get an entire jar of the elixir from just a couple scoops of GB6, and when it's mixed with water, it stretches it that much further. And you really found that it helped when nothing else did, and that's one of the things that really impresses me. We've even used homeopathic remedies for your acid issues and really been disappointed with the results. And you discovered this just kind of through experimentation and found that this works better than anything else you've tried.
Right. I also like to take the Lemuz, but of course that has the cranberries in it, so and there's citrus in it, and so it's quite acidic. And I have found just lately that if I put a scoop of that into my water bottle with my Lemuz, I have no problem drinking it.
That's great. That's really good to know. Yeah, so those are some ideas. I hope that you try them, and please let us know what works for you. And if you have any questions on either of the tips that were given, my yogurt recipes or my mom's elixir for acidic issues, just reach out and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So we'll wrap it up here, and we started with Hippocrates saying all disease begins in the gut. He was a wise man. He also said, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine thy food. And I really think it's great that the Anovite company does use whole foods in their product line and that they are so effective. So do know that they have a 90-day, 100% money back guarantee if you are interested in trying the products. And if for some reason you weren't satisfied, they do refund your money. They're that confident that you're going to be pleased. So again, reach out to me or whoever invited you, or if you're watching the replay, whoever shared the replay with you, and we'd be happy to help and answer any questions that you might have. So with that, for the recording, we'll say goodbye. And for those here live, we'll answer any questions or take any comments that anybody might have. So thanks, everyone.